Today on The Explainer, we are digging into one of the weirdest and honestly, one of the most powerful stories in all the biblical prophets. We're talking about God, a guy named Hosea, and a commands to enter a marriage that's destined for heartbreak, all to send this unbelievable message to an entire nation. I mean, think about it. The entire book of Hosea kicks off with that one mind-bending command. It's a setup that just grabs you right away, you know? It creates this mystery that's going to unlock a really powerful, gut-wrenching message about betrayal, judgment, and a love that just, well, it refuses to give up.
So let's just jump right in. At the very center of this whole story is a command that is so shocking, it's pretty much designed to be impossible to forget.
And you got to understand, this isn't just some personal tragedy playing out. God is literally telling Hosea to perform what's called a sign act. What does that mean? It means his entire life, his marriage, his kids, his heartbreak is being put on display. It becomes this living, breathing parable for everyone in Israel to see.
Okay, so what is this all about? What does this incredibly difficult marriage actually represent? Let's peel back the layers on this metaphor because it's a big one.
So on the surface, it's pretty straightforward, right? You've got Hosea, the totally faithful husband, and then you have Gomer, his unfaithful wife. It's a painful, very human story of betrayal and heartbreak that we can kind of wrap our heads around.
But here's where it all clicks into place and becomes so much bigger. Hosea, he represents God, Yahweh, who has been completely faithful to his promises. And Gomer, well, she represents the entire nation of Israel, which has been, you could say, cheating on God, running after other gods, and just shattering that sacred relationship.
And just when you think, wow, this can't get any more dramatic, believe me, it does. The children born into this broken family are given these names. And they're not names of blessing, oh no, they're divine warnings. Each one is a prophecy of disaster.
So, first up, their son is named Jezreel. Now, on the surface, that name means God sows, which sounds kind of nice, right? Hopeful, even, but not here. In this context, it's a terrifying throwback to a bloody massacre that happened in a place called Jezreel. So the name is a warning. God is about to sow judgment, and another violent reckoning is coming.
Then comes a daughter, and her name is Lo-Ruhamah. The meaning here is just brutal. It means no mercy. I mean, can you imagine? It's this stark public announcement that the nation has pushed God to the limit. The well of his compassion, it's run dry. And the third kid's name, wow, this one is the final blow. Lo-Ami. It means not my people. This isn't just a warning anymore. This signals a total break in the covenant. That sacred family bond between God and Israel is fractured.
Yeah, this is the absolute bottom, the rock bottom of the story. That line, "For you are not my people and I am not your God," it's basically a declaration of divine divorce. The relationship that had defined this nation for centuries, it's over.
So, with the covenant totally shattered, the relationship in ruins, seemingly beyond any hope of repair, you have to wonder, is that it? Is this really where the story ends?
But then, just when you think it's all doom and gloom, the story takes this incredible turn. In a stunning reversal, the whole thing pivots. The prophecy of judgment gets completely transformed into this almost unbelievable promise of hope and restoration. And this is what's so cool. Look at how those very names, those awful symbols of punishment, get completely flipped upside down. Jezreel stops meaning a bloody purge and instead becomes a day when God sows blessings. Lo-Ruhamah, no mercy, becomes she has received mercy. And Lo-Ami, not my people, turns into you are the children of the living God. Just amazing.
The message here is crystal clear. That divine divorce, it was only temporary. And we're not just talking about forgiveness, like wiping the slate clean. This is about a complete renewal of the whole deal, the covenant. God promises to bring his people back together and make what was so badly broken whole again.
All right, so let's pull back for a second. Why this story? Why this strange, painful, bizarre setup? What is it about this marriage metaphor that makes it so powerful that we're still talking about it thousands of years later?
Well, here's the absolute heart of it. This metaphor completely changes how you think about sin. See, it's not just about breaking some rule in a cosmic law book anymore. No, it's about breaking a heart in a deeply personal, loving relationship. And while it definitely shows Israel's failure, what it really shines a light on is the shocking, relentless depth of God's love. A love that sticks around even after the worst kind of betrayal.
And this line right here, Man, it just perfectly captures God's internal struggle. Even as he's declaring judgment, his own heart is twisting at the thought. His anger is it's overwhelmed by this compassion that the text calls warm and tender. In the end, love wins. It just does.
So the story of Hosea and Gomer leaves us with this one final, really provocative question to think about. It's this powerful testament to a radical kind of love, isn't it? A love that doesn't just forgive, but one that is absolutely determined to redeem and restore. A love that no matter what happens simply refuses to let go.